I like that Vietnamese restaurant down there too.
Oh, yeah.
The Tebow?
Yeah.
Oh, the one right by Little Caesars?
No, the one down.
Oh, PT Noodle?
No, it's
Right across the street, the pho place?
Tebow. Yeah.
Tebow.
Well, there's that other like Vietnamese place like right along by us.
Yeah, that one. Down by the vape shop.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
Wow. Say the vape shop and they all know where it's at. Welcome everyone to the Palm Valley Church Podcast, where we invite God into everyday conversations. My name is Mark Grohocky, and today the doctor is back. Good to see you, Pastor Ryan. How are you, sir?
Doing good. Glad to be here today. Thanks for inviting me back.
You know, you have the standing open invitation always, you know.
That's great, but you never tell me when you guys are filming. So I'm welcome anytime if I happen to walk by the room and see you guys in here. So.
That's a good point. Well, we're glad you walked by today so we can pull you in. Now, I mean, how's life been? I mean, life just going well, just family. I mean, we closed up summer and that was a good summer.
Great summer. Back to school, so just kind of getting. Summer's fun, like everyone gets like, do fun stuff. But then by the end of the summer, we're craving routine again. Like we need some structure.
Right.
So we definitely have that again with school and activities and all that stuff. So it's good.
I don't know if you want to share this or not, but I hear there's like some new political stuff within your own family. You've got some political aspirations by some of your people?
So Grace ran for student council.
Okay.
And she got elected twice to become her class representative. Yeah, she won both elections, and
that is great.
She's thrilled.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know if she really knows exactly what that means.
Right.
It's a little bit of power. Yeah, we're going to have to work on that a little bit.
That would make me a little bit nervous with Grace because it seems like she's one that could grab a hold of some power and run with it potentially.
Yeah, I think she could. I mean, she runs her brothers around. I mean, they what do you want to do, Grace? What do you think, Grace? So she's a natural leader.
All right.
Or a natural bossy person. I don't know.
Right. Well, this would be good. This would be good training for her coming through this.
She's excited.
All right. Now, we just finished up as well this great series on health, this kind of 90s series and that. I don't know about you, but I loved it. I thought it was great tapping into kind of the 90s theme and feel. I mean, we had some great, obviously, music that went throughout all of it. But we did this health series, and it was, Matt, I don't think we've done a health series either forever or at least in a long time. So
yeah, not in a long time. Not in a long time.
How'd you feel about it? Did you feel like it came across well?
I felt really good. It's always nervous going in because when we talk about health, it's so personal, right?
Yeah.
There's like so much baggage that people have, so much, things that they've picked up habit-wise or, there's just a lot of layers to it. So going into it, I wanted to be very careful not to polarize people unnecessarily. I don't want you to shut me off in the introduction of the message and just kind of listen all the way through. And I thought it was really great because we got a chance to just really kind of stand firmly on the scriptural part of it. That, okay, our body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. That this is a gift from God. And then if we run everything through the idea of God has given us our bodies to serve, to be of service, then are we able to do that or are we not able to do that? And take the whole weight thing, BMI, like all of those other health indicators, take those things off the table. Let's just talk about, can I do what God's called me to do?
Yeah.
If so, great. You don't need to, this is not your area. Work on something else. There's probably some other area in your spiritual life you need to work on.
Yeah.
But if the answer to that's no, then let's take some action steps.
Yeah. So, I mean, as speakers, sometimes as we work through it, we pull out a lot for ourselves. Out of this whole series, was there something that, I don't know, you kind of learned yourself or went through with it? I mean, you're already a pretty healthy guy. So what did you pull out of it?
For me, that first message on rest was my big thing. Like, this is the one that I find myself slipping in quicker than anything else. And it's that good opportunity versus what God has called me to do. That I can very easily fill up every single day off with good things. So that would be a positive thing to do. That would be a helpful thing to that person. But to be able to have that discipline to shut it down is hard. It's not something you just make one decision and no, I'm going to protect the Sabbath. It's every week I'm going to protect the Sabbath. Every week I'm going to prepare for this day. So for me, that's the one I took the most away from.
Yeah. So how are you implementing that just in your own life?
Just spending more. So we film, I don't know if it messes up the magic of podcasts, but my Sabbath is tomorrow. So whenever you guys watch this, just assume that it is tomorrow, whatever.
Right.
But I'm going to go home tonight. Adrian and I have some things planned where we're going to make sure we're ready for tomorrow, that we've just kind of finished up all of the housework stuff, that we're preparing for it. And that's the big, because if we don't prepare for it, something's going to come up. There's always things left undone, and you just find yourself slipping back into that kind of routine of work.
Well, I remember you walked through that a bit with just with our staff, and to me, that was the exact thing that stood out to me was preparing for this Sabbath rest. Because I was the same way. I was like, well, my day off, I got to get all these errands done. I got to all these house chores. And when you mentioned that of the night before, you're almost making sure laundry's done. You guys are making sure the dishes and everything. I was like, that's exactly it. A good majority of my day is that doing this work I don't even like to do, but have to get done.
Yeah.
That was a huge point for me.
But it's personal because there's a gal in our small group that she's like, I was feeling guilty. Like when you first talked about doing no work, she's like, I was feeling guilty because on my day off, she's like, I love to meal prep for the next week. And that's work. She's like, but I really love doing it. And she's like walking out from the message. She's like, oh no, I can keep doing this because it actually fills me up, even though it's work, but it's work that she likes to do. So I like going and shopping for the vegetables and all that stuff. I love chopping them up and organizing it. Like it fills me to do that.
Yeah.
So once again, it's not, your day of rest is not sitting on the couch doing nothing, binging Netflix. That's not what that means.
Right.
Do things that fill you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I absolutely love that. Was there any like last thing that you missed in it? You're like, I wish I'd have added this in, or I wish I'd have talked about this health-wise.
I think the one thing that we had to kind of shrink down a little bit was that friends part. We talked about the faith, fitness, food, friends.
Yeah.
And because we very rarely hit the food and fitness part, we're like, okay, we've got to hit this because this is not going to come up again. The friends, we talk about relationships and authentic relationships all the time. So we're going to hit that again.
Yeah.
But specifically as it ties to this area, that's the one that if we had one more week, we would have really, that accountability to our relationship would have been a big part of it.
Oh, yeah. Well, I love the fact, though, that the series that we're really going into now is it's a relational series, Relationships Made Simple.
Yeah.
So it is. It's a good segue into that. I mean, what are you looking forward to in this series coming up?
Yeah, so it's a relationship series, but it's a little bit different than ways we've done in the past. So sometimes we'll take a specific relationship, like we're going to talk about marriage, or we're going to talk about, work relationships, children, parenting, which are all really important. But this one we're saying, relationships made simple. I know that I often have gotten to some bad habits in my relationships, doing things to try and make them simple, but in the long run, I'm making them way more difficult than I need to be. Just because I don't want to deal with certain aspects. I'm like, I don't want to be hassled by that. But then it ends up messing up the relationship. So we're talking about relationships made simple. What are the things that we ignore that actually hurt us in the long run? Because relationships impact every part of our life. It's what brings so much joy in life can come from the relationships around us. And honestly, so much turmoil in life, if they go south, comes from the relationships around us.
Yeah, it's that whole idea of when we cut corners trying to make things easier, that is the very thing that causes us problems in the long run in this. Oh, so what, when we're stepping into this, I mean, what are maybe some of those the big picture, the kind of the topics that we'll be covering? Yeah,
so when I think about, some of the things that I do to make my relationship simple, it's easy just to assume the other person in the relationship, whether it's a friend or a coworker or a spouse or neighbor, understands what we agreed to. Hey, we talked about this a while ago. I'm sure we're on the same page. It's a hassle to bring it back up, or man, they know how I feel about this. That they've always known how I feel, and it's not worth the hassle to go back and clarify. But when we don't have clear communication, we don't go back and verify, hey, this is what we agreed to. Hey, this is how I actually feel about this. This is, clarify that causes all kinds of complications. We're going to talk about clear communications is one of the weeks. Another one is conflict resolution. So often I'm conflict adverse. Like I do not like to have conflict. I will avoid at all costs. Hey, we have a disagreement. It's not that big of a deal. It'll blow over. It'll solve itself. I try to simplify the relationship by not dealing with conflict, but you know what? It never does solve itself.
It never does.
It never just blows over. It never just disappears. So how do we deal with conflict in order to, because it really removes that conflict and simplifies the relationship. We think we're making it simple by avoiding it, but we made it way more complicated. Another one is some of the relationships in our life. There are certain relationships in our life that it sounds hard to say that need to end. That aren't healthy, that are toxic. The Bible talks about wise people, foolish people, and evil people. And when we determine that someone's evil, we need to remove them from our life. Not to cast them off, that we don't care about them anymore, that they're just like out ostracized in some island, but we can't let them continue to influence, drag us down, suck the life out of us. And we're going to talk about some necessary endings. I mean, that sounds really that's really difficult to do. So we don't want to mess with that because, feelings and all those types of things. But relationships are much more simple if we kind of think about the people through that biblical lens.
Well, especially when we see them and we know these relationships are toxic.
Yeah.
A toxic relationship can't be fixed.
Yeah.
It just needs a boundary to stop it, really.
Yeah.
So,
and I think the work environment is probably the simplest way to think about this because, if you have employees, you're a supervisor, you're a manager, you have employees under you, and you have that one toxic, negative employee, and you might ignore it, and you're like, oh, it'll get better, but you just see how it affects everything. That the only way to fix that problem is to remove them off of that team.
Right.
And hopefully, there's an opportunity for them to turn around and learn from it, but you can't let the whole thing sink because of one person there.
Right.
So there is such a thing as some necessary endings there. We're going to spend some time talking about that.
Good. What else?
One of the ones that I think we don't like to talk about is death and dying. Like at some point, we are all going to face death.
Right.
At some point, we're going to be dealing with aging parents and taking care of them at end of life. And no one wants to talk about that. Like it is super uncomfortable because then as soon as you start talking about death and dying, then I have to kind of face my own mortality there. But just ignoring those conversations and waiting till it's the crisis isn't healthy. And part of it, we all know people that, die at old age, but we also know people that whose lives have been cut short, that freak accident. How do we deal with that?
Yeah.
Or even worse than the freak accident, the long-term illness, and you see someone slowly passing in front of you. So, it's a relationship series, but these are people in relationships. This is part of life. So how do we talk about that? And, one of the things that, I've had that experience a couple of years ago with my mom with Alzheimer's and, her very close, in the home, taking care of her at end of life. And, how do we do that as a follower of Christ? Like, what does that look like? It should look different.
Right.
Like, because I have this hope, because I have, eternal security, I have security that I know where I'm going to go when I die and I know where my mom was going to go. Like, that should look different than just the average person that has no hope in that situation.
I love the fact that we're addressing this because you're so right. I mean, in my role, we deal a lot with the funerals and memorial services and that come up. And almost everyone, they've never even thought about it in terms of how to handle themselves, how to handle other family members while this is happening. And so to really put some thought in and to see how is God asking me to be in this relationship, especially now that this one has ended and I have to deal with others. I think this would be a very powerful message. Yeah.
I remember this quote that I read years ago. It was a couple hundred years old, but it was the mortician that lived in the town that John Wesley ministered in. And John Wesley said that the greatest compliment I ever got was from this mortician that said, your people die better than anyone else in this town.
That's a big statement. Yeah.
And it's, it sounds kind of more, they die better, but they face it with, it doesn't mean that there's not grief, there's not sorrow, but there's this underlying hope of this isn't the end.
Right.
That there is more to this. So you don't face it with so much fear and so much, anxiety, but a very, very hope-filled, time in our lives. And that doesn't come from just the first time you think about death is developed in that instant.
Right.
So how do we prepare ourselves for something that I hope I don't have to face for a very long period of time. I hope my loved ones don't have to face for a very long period of time.
Right.
But we don't know what's going to happen.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And then the last one, we're going to talk just a little bit about trusting again. When we've been hurt by other people, the simple thing is just like, all right, well, I'm not opening up to anyone anymore.
Yeah.
Like relationships don't work for me. I'm not going to be that vulnerable again. I'm not going to be that open again because it just leads to hurt and pain. So we lock ourselves up. We don't allow authentic relationships.
Yeah.
And we think that that's simpler.
Yeah.
But it's not. Then we're losing all the benefits of these life-giving relationships. So how do we trust again, though? How do we walk through that?
Right.
So it's really kind of a relational series that hits, trust again. That could be in a marriage. It could be a coworker. It could be a child. It could be a parent.
Yeah.
These are our principles. Whatever relationships you have, this is how we simplify them. And it's amazing that the simplest way to do it is the way that God intended it for us to live in relationships.
Yeah.
That he designed it, he set it out, he's given us instruction and guidance, and we're going to be kind of pouring into this and really shaping our perspective of relationships through a lens of what does Scripture have to say, not what the latest, not what Oprah says, or I shouldn't use Oprah anymore because she's been off TV for a while, but what the latest, whatever.
Sure.
But what does Scripture have to say about it?
Well, I love the fact that this series is for everyone.
Yeah.
It isn't just for married couples. It isn't for, just a specific dating. We're all in relationships, and all of them are so crucial, and we get to live out our faith amongst these relationships.
Yeah.
And so I think each of these topics are just a huge thing for us to dive into. Yeah. What would you say for you as you walk into any relationship in life, whether it's coworker, whether it's marriage, whether it's with your kids, is there kind of a driving principle for you that you live by in this?
That's a good question. I think one of the key things there is that clear communication part of making sure that expectations are stated, are met, that, I'm fulfilling expectations. I know what the person is expecting in this relationship so that I can, from the very onset, like, okay, no, I'm out. I can't do that.
Right.
I would love to be able to, I can't have a cup of coffee with you every single week. Like if that's the requirement for this relationship, then I'm going to have to say no. Mm-hmm. But what does it look like? Are you good with text messages every once in a while? And it sounds kind of weird to kind of start a relationship that way. But when we're not clear at the beginning what expectations are, it ends up blowing up.
Exactly. I have to agree with that so much, because that's exactly the types of things as people walk into my office and sit in meeting with them, is this idea of expectations versus reality. Mm-hmm. And the further that gap, the further apart my expectations are from reality, or their expectations is from reality, that's where conflict lives. Yeah. That's where hurt and pain lives.
Yeah, I was going to say that gap is where all the pain is.
Right.
And more gap, more pain.
It's exactly.
You're just setting yourself up.
And so everything we do on some level in walking through that is just trying to figure out, well, what were your expectations?
Yeah.
Once we find out what they are, have you communicated those expectations? And are they realistic now?
Yeah.
Is that even a realistic thing that can or cannot be achieved? And understanding that if reality doesn't match those expectations, it doesn't mean the other person is a bad person, a wrong person for you, or anything else. You just have to see, can I adjust my expectations? Yeah. And if you can't, well then, maybe it's time for a necessary ending, like the topic will be. So I love that. I think that just drives everything on that. So,
and you're going to be helping out a lot with this series. I'm excited. Get the
I'll do my best.
Professional counselor in.
Right.
So
I don't know if that gets us in trouble or not, but
that'll be great. It'll be great. I'm looking forward to it.
It's so funny, but I don't think people realize that we literally have a relationship everywhere in our lives.
Yeah.
Even if we are a single person who is living by themselves without a roommate and everything else, we have these tiny relationships, whether it's a small one with a cashier or a waiter at a restaurant, or a phone message that we may be having. Those on some level are tiny little relationships in that we have to just be aware of.
Yeah.
And it's huge.
they're so important. They bring us the potential for so much joy. I was in Albuquerque over my wife and I's anniversary. Yeah, we went to Albuquerque for our anniversary.
Wow, you are the romantic Pastor Ryan. I like this.
And we were checking out of the hotel there, and the bellman was just kind of making small talk as they were bringing up our car. And just getting, he's like, oh, I'm from Hawaii originally and came here to go to school and finish school. And I'm like, so why don't you go back to Hawaii? Like, Hawaii's a little nicer than Albuquerque.
No offense to Albuquerque,
No offense
people.
Albuquerque, no offense. It's paradise. It's tropical paradise. He's like, well, my brother lives here. And I want to be around my brother.
Yep.
And he's like, you can be, and this is what he says, he's like, you could be in a tropical paradise, but if you're not around people that you care about, it's not paradise.
Right.
Paradise is where the relationships were.
Yeah. Yeah.
All this from the 23-year-old bellman at the hotel there.
I was going to say that is deep.
It
from
was
a 23-year-old bellman in Albuquerque.
Yeah.
So.
I wish I had more than $2 to tip him. So
Nice.
But
that's exactly right, though. I mean, it's why we push authentic relationships here at Palm Valley more than anything else, because we know if you are in these authentic relationships, that's where growth happens. That's where growth in your relationship with God and with others.
Yeah. They bring you so much joy, and then they can also destroy so much. So I mean, you could have the dream job, making tons of money, debt-free, like every other checkbox done. But if you're miserable with your spouse, or you and your kids' relationship is in turmoil, or your best friend and you are just, everything's in crisis, life just feels like it's a mess.
Yeah.
Like those other things don't fix the relationship problems.
Yeah.
But you could be in financial ruin.
Right.
And you could have a job that you don't enjoy to do, but if you have relationships that are life-giving, you can make it.
Yeah.
Like you
You
can
have
push.
hope.
Yeah,
You have
absolutely.
hope in the midst of it.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Absolutely love that. Well, I'm looking forward to this series. So it will be an absolute blast that we're going to dive into. And relationships made simple.
Made simple.
It's so funny when we say that relationship made simple. On some level, I can almost feel so many people like, what? They're not simple. It's like, God has something so much better for us. So that should be good.
Cool.
All right. Do you have any other fall vacations or things planned like that you're just looking forward to as a family? Or are you guys prepping for Christmas already? Or
No, we're not prepping for Christmas.
you're not one of those that's already counting down the days.
So our falls are a lot different now because the boys are in marching bands. So
Oh.
that sets the tone for the fall. Like we have to go to all the football games
Yeah.
and then they've got competitions and they have crazy rehearsal. Like they're there to 8:30 at night, a couple nights a week at school rehearsing.
Really?
Yeah. They're banding it up and all kinds of.
Wow.
So that really kind of locks us down fall, which is fun. You get to
Yeah.
do this, this new adventure in life, but not a lot of travel because of not a lot of other stuff.
Right. Okay. Well, all right. It'll be the band fall for you. So that's good.
Yeah. So I've got Eric plays the glockenspiel.
Okay.
Does that sound right for Eric?
It totally does.
He plays the glockenspiel, which, in case you don't know this, it's a small xylophone.
Okay.
And then Isaac plays the mellophone, which is
The mellophone?
it's like a marching version of the French horn.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a different version.
Well, because the French horn's kind of circular, so it's not easy to march with.
Okay.
So it's kind of more of a really large trumpet with a big bell on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I know all these things now. The best part is when Isaac's like, hey, Eric, let's practice together. So you have a mellophone and a glockenspiel. And they don't play a lot together. So it's like, Isaac will be like, bum, bum, bum. And then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9. Ding, 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 ding. Bum, 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 bum. Da, 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 da. It's hilarious. And then we go to the competition. We're like, oh, that's how it all fits together. That's Eric's part fits with that part. But just the two of them do not make a band.
Yeah.
So
Though that makes me want to have the two of them on the podcast just to get some examples of it. So
hey, they're available for worship on the weekend if you guys ever need a glockenspiel. Eric's all set. So.
yeah, that's impressive. Oh my goodness. Well, Pastor Ryan, thank you so much for joining us. And like I said, it's going to be a great series that we're looking forward to.
All right.
And definitely, whenever you walk by, please come join us.
Okay. All right.
That's what we want. And everyone else, make sure you join us online. Make sure that you like and follow and subscribe to our YouTube channel and all of our pages and everything else. We want to connect with you online, but also in person. So we look forward to seeing you and have a great week, everyone.